as I said, this is a way to support you to do some of the basic things that you are supposed to do. So let me bring Notepad here. So in terms of site-to-site VPN, which yesterday we used ASDM to do one of them. And as a network engineer, you might be responsible of doing site-to-site VPN for remote connection in terms of setting a new remote office up. And then after you are done with the remote office setup, you'll be required to be able to do what? You'll be required to be able to configure site-to-site VPN as a wide area technology that you are using. And in that situation, you should be able to configure on the Cisco router, pointing it to the data center firewall, or your remote from the firewall to your remote office. So these are common tasks you'll be doing as a network engineer. You can also be responsible to create a VPN to a vendor device, which we spoke about, which will also be something that you'll be required to do. And all this I'm teaching you, what I taught you yesterday and what I'm going to do today, should support you to be able to do all this. But just to repeat again, it doesn't make you a firewall person. You should not go and look for a job as firewall engineers, because that will let you struggle. But this will help you in terms of adding to your day-to-day activities as a network engineer. So in terms of site-to-site VPN, we spoke about two forms of it. We spoke about policy-based VPN, and we spoke about route-based VPN. So let me find out from Obed. Can you give me one example of policy-based VPN? So we have policy-based VPN. We've done one example, and we've also done one example of route-based VPN. So can you give me any example of a policy-based VPN in terms of site-to-site? Is Obed here? Can you hear me? Can everybody hear me? I'm not.
Yes, we can hear you.
I think he's muted.
Okay. Who can tell me an example of policy-based VPN? Yes, Chestero.
It's IPsec.
So IPsec is one example, and route-based VPN. And route-based VPN is what? Do you have
The
example?
GRE.
The GRE. So this should be well understood. So these are VPN that we've done, and I'm expecting you to know that when it comes to site to site. So today, our task today is to do remote access VPN. And this is something that you also be required to do. Sometimes they can ask you to create a remote access VPN for the sales department who are working remotely, or for the marketing department who are working remotely. So you are going to create a new connection profile for those departments who are supposed to work remotely. And because now a lot of people work remotely, being able to understand this is very, very important. Okay? Now, under the remote access VPN, we have three varieties, and I'm sure you all know it. But I'm just going to recap that again for today's topic. So for this one, for the remote access VPN, I spoke about that we have one which is clientless VPN. Clientless remote access VPN. So one of the remote VPN that you are going to have is going to either be a clientless remote access VPN, which means that no software is required. No software is required. Okay, no software installation. Let me add that one. No software installation is required on the user side. What do I mean by that? So let's say you get your corporate laptop. You don't need to install to be able to access any clientless VPN. And also it doesn't necessarily has to be a corporate laptop. It can be any device. It can be your personal device or any device. And you can access this anywhere you are in the world, as long as you have access to what? You have access to internet. That is the only requirement, and you know the web link. So this will require a web link that you browse to be able to have access to basic network connectivity. Basic network connectivity, which means that you will not have full access like somebody who is local. You will not have the same full access. So that is the situation where you get a web link access to be able to get that. And if I talk of a web link, it can be IP address, it can be a domain name. For example, like you can browse your membership page by doing member.networkprofessional.com. You put in your password, your all those stuff, and you have access to what I want you to have access. So it becomes like a portal that you get access to check your email, check basic stuff that you are required to do. So this is one of the type of remote access. Then we have clients. Okay, we have, okay, let me put it this way. AnyConnect clients VPN. Now, what do I mean by AnyConnect client VPN? Now, what this means that you need a software. This requires a software installation on the client side, which means that the client machine. So on the client side, your PC or your laptop, you need to have this software installed so that it will be able to have access to the VPN. So this part, the technology we use for the encryption is SSL. You can also use IPsec. We have IPsec AnyConnect as well. So just for you to know. So in terms of the client VPN, we have SSL AnyConnect and we have IPsec AnyConnect. And all this required software installation on the Windows machine or your corporate laptop. And this software, it has to be corporate laptop. You can't use your own personal laptop to do this installation. In fact, the company will not allow you to go with that process. It has to be corporate laptop, because sometimes you don't get connectivity based on just username and password. You get connectivity based on a AAA server. So if you don't use a corporate laptop, you will not have access. And this is what we call full tunnel. Full tunnel meaning that you have full access. It's just like having corporate laptop in a virtual location. So whatever your laptop at the data center, at the branch office, whatever that laptop can do, when you go to the house, you are able to do that when you connect with the VPN. So you have full tunnel or full access to your corporate resources when you are having AnyConnect process. And this is what we are going to do as an example, just for you to understand how it works, and also support you to understand when you say you work from home, how you're able to connect to your corporate network. So we are going to have a feel of how it works. So I expect all of you to pay attention to that. And the last aspect that you can have as a remote VPN is the IPsec client VPN. which in this regard, the technology for the encryption is going to be IPsec. But this also works the same as the AnyConnect. You need software to be installed on the client side, and this also gives you full access in terms of that. So guys, why I'm doing this is because you are going to demonstrate that you can do this. You should be able to answer everything, and these are the possible things that you can be asked. What kind of remote access VPN are you capable of configuring, or what do your company use? So these are common ones. This was more popular in the days of Windows 7. For now, it's not a common thing. You have to get a third party to be able to install on the client side and not the Cisco one. So most of the ones you are going to see in the industry is going to be AnyConnect. And maybe if you are working from home, you are going to use AnyConnect VPN to be able to communicate to that. So this is something that everybody should be able to understand and appreciate the flow. So do you all understand this? Are you all able to understand what VPN is all about in terms of corporate work? Okay, so if everybody understands this, I'm going to go through one in terms of how to set up a new Connect client version of VPN. And this can be something that you can own up, that you've done for your marketing department, you've done for engineering department, who are supposed to work from home, and then you give them access to your corporate network, what they are supposed to access. So we are going to go through how to configure them using Cisco ASA firewall, and you can see that it's very, very simple. So this will be our topology that we are going to use to achieve that result. So this is our ASA firewall. These are two servers that we want people from outside, people from all over the world. You can be in any location, having your PC here, having your PC here, having your PC here. So this can be a PC in the States. This can be a PC in Europe. This can be a PC in Asia or Africa or wherever the case may be. And right from there, having internet access, you have a channel that you connect to this ASA. And once you connect to this ASA, this PC will be like you are here. So these devices are going to see you as neighbors. They are not going to see you as a remote device because of the technology of what? VPN. So you are going to be identified like that to be able to talk to this. So all the rules that apply to outside people who are not using the VPN, it's not going to be applied to you. You are going to be like a local device. So once if you have a PC here, whatever you can do over here, the same thing can be done when you are in Asia, Africa, Europe, with the access of connecting with the AnyConnect VPN. So that is what we are going to do. So before we start, I want us to test. So this will be our outside computer, which is actually outside to what we are doing now. So right now, we will not be able to access the internal servers. So this is server 1. And let's look at the server 1 IP address. So server 1 IP address is 10.10.0.5, and server 2 is also .6. So these are our corporate network, and we are going to ensure that this PC will be able to communicate to that. So just to be sure of what we are doing, we don't have any VPN connection now. There is nothing connected here. So now let's ping that device. So we have 10.10.0.5, which is the IP address for server 1. And of course we are not reachable. So this is like you have a PC on the internet and you want to access a corporate network. It doesn't work that way in real life. It's not possible. So for it to be possible, unless this computer is connected with what? VPN, then it can be possible. So we also try with .6 before we set the configuration up, and we can see that we are also not reachable. So we are going to configure our AnyConnect, and we configure this PC to connect with the VPN. Then now we can have access to it. So how do we do that? So the way to do that is you first of all have to, for any remote access VPN or any VPN to work, you need a connection profile, you need a group policy, and then you need a users who are supposed to use the VPN. So these users are going to be mapped with the group profile, and they are going to map with the connection profile. If they are not mapped with these two information, the users cannot connect to the way you want them to connect. So as we did with the site-to-site VPN, we are going to apply the same method. So we go to wizard, even though you can also configure by coming to choose remote access VPN. You create your connection profile, you create your group policy, and you create your local users to be able to have your client VPN working. But this time around, because I've taught you the wizard, I'm going to use it to configure AnyConnect, and that creates all this process for you by the time you are done with all. So that is what we are going to use. So you choose this one, and now you have your wizard open. And as your wizard is open, you need to specify your connection profile. So what connection profile are we going to do? We can say AnyConnect VPN for sales department. So this can be a project that you'll be assigned to do. So it means that all those who are for sales, the users who are for sales, are those who are going to use this AnyConnect VPN, or are those who are going to be able to connect with this profile. So you go to next, and then this is an option where you choose what technology you want to use to encrypt. And because for this project we are going to use SSL. You can also choose both, and then it means that the users who have this connection profile can access either with SSL, or they can access either with what? IPsec. That is the whole idea. So now we go to next from here by choosing what we want. And this is the session where you have to determine the software that the client is going to use in order to access the VPN. So we have one already on this ASA. So we browse that one, and that is AnyConnect Windows version 4. AnyConnect version 4. This is for Windows, this is for Linux. All users use Windows machine. So we are going to choose the Windows machine. If your environment is Linux and you want them to connect with a Linux machine, then you are going to use Linux. So this is what you choose. And I'm going to give you the screenshot of how to do all this on your training guide, so that you have that one to be practicing if you get a project. Just watch step by step to do the same thing. So now I click OK. So I've chosen that one. I wait for it to be chosen. Then now you go to next. And now you are going to create, how do you call it? Users that you want them to access this. Now, over here, you can choose to have a AAA server. So AAA server, you bring the AAA server name. Either is radio server. Okay, let me give you fair idea about what I mean by AAA server. Okay, now this is what we use to, okay, so the AAA is authentication, accounting, and authorization. So you authenticate the person, and then whatever he's doing, he has to be accounted for. You have to know what he's doing. Then you authorize the person to be able to access the corporate resources. Most companies have AAA server for authentication purpose. So when you get your laptop, they'll give you a user account, your username, and your password. George, don't sleep. You look like you are sleeping. Are you with me? It's just 3 p.m. How can you be sleeping at 3 p.m., George?
Now my screen is yesterday. He said the same. My camera is here, but my screen is here. So
Okay.
it looks like
So you are with me. So you are with me.
Yeah.
Okay. What did I say just now? Let me be sure that you know what I said.
Most companies use the service, and you were saying that it's
No,
authenticate. I don't know.
I didn't hear what you said. Can you say it again?
You said most companies use the last thing was most companies use the AAA services, and before that you were saying that it's authenticate. I said I can't remember the.
Okay, it means that you didn't hear me. Let me see if those who are paying attention. Let me get, because what you said means that why is it that I want to call Godfred again? But I think I have to call him anyway because it just occurred to me. Unfortunately, I can't help it. Godfred, what did you hear about AAA server? Some people too have chosen not to unmute themselves. Oh, okay, you are not part of those. Some people are saying that their microphone is acting up. So when you call them, they don't unmute themselves and they want to use that one as an excuse. But I'm happy your case is not like that. What did you hear about AAA server?
Well, you said that if you don't, you have to be, there's this AAA that's about authentication, accounting, and authorization. Users are normally assigned credentials that they use.
Okay, so what I mean is, we have a server called Triple, and please pay attention. When I'm talking about this, pay attention because you should not just listen to me. Every company have this system working, and if you are going to demonstrate that you have a working skills, then you need to be able to know this. So we have what we call AAA server, and I'm going to give you examples of that. And some of the examples is what you have here. Now, this AAA server is a network server that controls users' access to resources and services. So without this server, you can't control users. You can't determine what users are supposed to access. And it works with all these 3 A's. The first A is for authentication, and that is to verify the user identity, okay, using the credential that you'll be assigned with. So when you get your laptop, they will create an account for you, and that is where you put in your username and your password. And sometimes you might not have it that way. It could be a digital certificate, or sometimes it could be a biometric information. So all these are provided by the AAA server for the purpose of authentication, to identify that you are the right user based on your user account and your password. For example, most of you are able to log on to the lab. I'm not using AAA server, but I have a means to authenticate you, to be able to give you access. So those who don't have information of the username or the information of the password cannot access the same system. This is the way the real life works. In any way you want to connect to anything, you need those systems to be working. So they will have a AAA server which will be used to control users in terms of what they are supposed to access and what they are supposed not to access. So when we talk of authentication, it's just a way to identify the right user. That is what I mean. And the second A is for authorization. This is to verify the user, or this is to determine what resources or services a user can access based on their role and based on their permission. What are you authorized to do? Are you all getting what I'm saying? So the AAA server, what it's doing is giving you, is allowing you to access by accepting your credential, and your credential is mapped to a services that you have access to. So you might not have access to network services, you might not have access to certain things because of the AAA server. And that is something everybody should know. And then the last one is accounting. It tracks the user activity. So please, when you do something which is bad in the industry, own up, because everything you are doing is tracked. It's tracked based on your login time. When you log in, so they will see Chestero, maybe Chestero is C what, or Godfred G Asari. So that domain name is there. So it has tracked the user, and every activity, in fact, the time you log on, the session duration, how long you access the process, and even the resource that you access. These are all there. Okay, these are information that can be used or can be seen. So you can't run away from this. So you don't need to run away if you do something. And this is very, very useful. So all these servers allow you to do that. Now with this AAA server, we have Radius, which is the open standard one, which can be installed on Windows Server. It can be installed on Linux operating system. So that is the Radius server. So your company can have a Radius server, or you can have Takas. Takas is for Cisco. So Takas, it could be ACS. And sometimes in Cisco, we also have what we call ICE. So in your job description, if you see ICE, you see ACS, they are all talking about AAA authentication server. So this is for Cisco, a Cisco device. And then these are things that my video that I'm talking about for YouTube, I'm going to share with you how to manage this, because there are skill sets you need to have, but they are not difficult. Within 5 hours, I can go through everything for you to understand. So everything you are going to have on the YouTube channel is going to support you for your role as a network engineer. So that you limit what? Chestero, you limit what? That part you see that I keep on saying it. It's very, very important to me. So that you become self-sufficient. Okay? That is my main goal. Or you can have other method like SDI, NT, Kerberos, LDAP. LDAP is also relating to Active Directory. Active Directory is what we use to also control users in terms of server management. So this one is the server guys who manage the Active Directory. So sometimes in an interview, they will ask you, do you have any basic understanding with this? I'm going to show you how to answer all that. So the point I'm making here is, you can choose any of them that you want to use for that, so that the person's account that is created there will be linked to be able to access or connect with the VPN. Are you sure you understand what I'm saying? So for example, if I use Radius server, I choose that one. I need to put a name here, the IP address, the location of the server. It will be inside one. What is the server security key? The server guys are going to give to you. Then you click OK. It means that you are connecting it to your VPN account or your VPN profile. So anybody who wants to connect with a remote VPN, they need to have account created on the AAA server before they can access the VPN. Have I made are you clear with what I'm saying? Is that part well understood? And not to be, just to be sure that you understand what I'm saying, let me find out from Labadi. It's a long time I heard from Labadi. And after Labadi, Chestero, is your own question or you want to answer?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay, ask your question, then I'll let Labadi prepare for what I mean by AAA server, and when you connect it to the VPN, what does it do? But ask your question.
So with a AAA server, so compared to like a PAM and IAM, like IAM, like Identity Access Management, and also like Privilege Access Management, does it do the same thing?
We call it IPAM. IPAM. You said, is that what you are talking about? IPAM. This one?
Like,
is that what you are referring to? Because I want to be sure.
no, okay, so they have like the I for identity and P for privilege. So they have
No. So okay, you let me tell you what I know. Then later on we can check, because I want you to be able to say the technology in a way that somebody can identify. We have a system called IPAM. Okay, so this is the way we pronounce it. You shouldn't pronounce it what you gave me, but this is how we call it. We call it IPAM, and then we will check what you are talking about to be sure of whether we are on the same page. Now, any network engineer, if you talk of IPAM, this is what comes in their mind. It means that it's IP address management software. We use this system in order to manage users IP, or to be able to create DHCP, to be able to manage IP address for static purpose, for whatever. So this is something that I said that in terms of managing IP address, you are either going to use IPAM or you are going to use a spreadsheet. A spreadsheet means that the company, so the spreadsheet means that the company is going to have a spreadsheet that's the, and I'll give you examples of that. That is a manual way of managing IP address. Or you are going to use this software, which we call IPAM, and then this is going to allow you to be able to manage your IP address without any stress. Okay, so it kind of gives you all devices on production with a glance. You have central location to be able to see every network which is on the network, and then every IP address which is on the network, and every IP address which is not on the network. So that is what we use on the industry. So if you talk of IPAM, say IPAM. Now let me hear your question, Wa.
Okay. I didn't know about that much, like that system, but like there's like a PAM, which is privilege access management.
So that is not IPPAM. So you talk of
Yeah,
so that is why I got confused. So in terms
So
of
okay, so I was talking about either the PAM or the IAM, which is the Identity Access Management. So does the AAA perform the same duty as that one? That's what I wanted to find out.
okay, so in terms of privilege access software, we have so many of them. We have so many of them. I mean, the PAM, which is the privilege access management software, is more for cyber discipline. I know mostly we use it for cyber, for applications, for critical system, for data, but it's also another method for authentication. But as you can see over here, this server allows you to do what is here. Okay, what is here is what you can do. So if your authentication is not here, then you can't use it. You understand? But the PAM process, I know of company using it for more of cyber discipline than network discipline. And it's also the same way, it's access management software. But when it comes to access management software, we have so many of them, so many, I can't even count. Okay, so company use it for different purpose and for different solution. But right now, what I'm focusing on is more of what is more known for creating users accounts and also managing users on the network. Okay, this could be used for different purposes to help the organization in terms of to secure access to critical devices or application or whatever the case may be. So yes, those are examples. But what is not here, you cannot use it on this system. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. But so with the identity access management, like what the AAA is doing, it does this, like the way you explain it looks like it does the same thing.
Yes. It's so all AAA server, all is doing is just identity access in terms of what you can access. So it's just the same thing. But we have identity access software, which are more application software, which are there. And we have servers, which are known for AAA servers. We call them AAA servers. And we have so many examples. Do you get it? So I want you to, okay. So when I create a network as a network engineer, there is cyber team, there is server guys, there is application team, there is network team. In terms of making sure your network is secured, somebody got a job where all he's doing is making sure users are on the right group of access, which means that the company have so many assets that sometimes they get confused on. Let's say Chestero, you have access to this, you have access to this, you have access to this, but you are not supposed to have access to all. So he's auditing that to make sure that you are in the right group with the right access. So that can even be a job on its own, just because there are so many overlay when it comes to access, to make sure that the right people have the right access to the right information. So there are so many, okay, but we are not going to go through all that, because like every company operate differently, and that is the reason why when you get a job you need orientation, because the process are also not going to be what the same. So you need orientation to be able to understand what AAA server are they using, what are they using it for, how will it help you as a network engineer, is AAA server connected to, because sometimes even to log on to routers and switches, you will not use the local password, you use the password that is given to you by the AAA server, so that you log on to your switches, your routers, everything that you want to access. So all these are things that in your first week they are going to make sure you have access to the device, and sometimes it can even take like a month before you're able to have access to everything. So today they give you access to something, another day they give you access to something, meaning that there are so many layers of access that they have to make sure you are added to the right group. And sometimes they will not even know till you are supposed to do something and you don't have access. Then they say, oh, there is a new dude called Chestero. He can't have access to this. Then let's make sure he's in the right group. So that is about access management. Does that answer your question?
Yes, Prof.
Okay. And I think I've even said what I want to say. So when I ask Labadi, he will get it with ease. So I'll continue and get a different question to ask what Labadi about that. So now we don't have AAA server on the system. So what are we going to do? We are going to create a user account. So we are going to use this firewall as a AAA server, where we will create users, where the firewall is going to authenticate the users to be able to access the VPN. And sometimes if you don't have a lot of remote users, you can have it configured local. So what it means is that you have to create the user account here. So admin, let's say admin VPN. Okay, and then let's use a password of, let's say I'm using Cisco here, and I'm using Cisco here. Then now you add, and you see the user over there. So now what we've done so far is we've been able to create one account. You can create multiple of them. So if you have 20 users, 30 users, and you want to use this as a local server, you create any that you want. And this is the credential they are going to use to log on to the AnyConnect VPN. Then you go to next. And over here, this is the reason why you get full access. What it means is that any remote user for client version, not clientless, for the client version, you are going to get an IP address from this firewall, from this ASA firewall. Then that IP address is something that the local can be able to communicate with, because the firewall will say, no, this person is in how do you call it, France, but he's okay to communicate with for all the local setup, because he's using an IP address that I'm aware of or I have assigned to. So what it means is that you are going to create a DHCP pool for all the VPN clients. So all the VPN clients has to get an IP address from the firewall. And once they have that IP address, they can have full access to the network. So we want to create one for IP version 4. And then we are going to say is AnyConnect VPN. And then we are going to give a different scope. So let's say 192.168.10. We can use .10 up to reserving only 10. And we have 192.168.254. So these are the IP address they are going to use. And 54. And then it means that they can have close to 244 IP address. So that is enough for remote workers. If you don't even have up to that remote workers, you can reduce the scope. So these are the IP address that anybody who connects to the VPN is going to be associated with or connect to. So you click OK on this, and that means that now we have what? Network we are going to use for our remote client. Then we go to next, and then from here we choose the DNS. So this DNS will be your corporate DNS IP, okay? And Wings is the old version of what? DNS, and this one is DNS has more features. So there is no company which use this server in terms of management of domain name to IP address. So I will leave that blank, or we can keep the same IP for the same purpose. So because they all do the same, so we can keep that for the same purpose in terms of that. And then with that, we are also going to have the domain for the company. And the domain for the company is nptc.com. That will be our domain name. So the company will have a domain name. So that is something you'll be given. And then you go to next. And as we know, if you want remote workers to connect to your server, they are coming from outside network. So they will hit the outside interface to be able to communicate with this. But this firewall has not configured. Now with this NAT configuration, what it means is they are coming with a private IP address that we just created, 192.168.10.0. They are coming with this IP address, which is private. So when it gets here, it has to be translated to be able to communicate to this. But this is private to private. So how will it work? You have to exempt it from NAT so that it will be like this network is local. So you have to tell the firewall that bypass the NAT rule when it comes to what? This network. Anybody coming with this network, exempt them from address translation. And this is something you do for all VPN as we've done so far. So now we are going to choose this one and then exempt this from inside network, and we can be specific with the local network that we want it to be exempted. Or for good practice, just leave it to any, so that anytime you want to connect to any server, it becomes very easy. Then we go to what? Next. And now we go to next, and this is where you get a summary of what we've done. So this is going to give us summary of everything we've done. What have you configured? We've created a profile name, so everybody on the sales department are going to use this profile. So on their VPN connection, that will be the profile name they are supposed to use. And then it's coming from outside. The interface to connect to the VPN is outside. And the encryption they are using for VPN is SSL and not IPsec. And then they are going to install this package. So these images is something that has to be installed on the Windows machine. This is something that the desktop people will install on your laptop before they ship it for you if you are working remotely. And then what server? If they are using AAA server, you are going to see it here, the server that you chose, the server information. But now we are using the ASA as our local server. And then in addition of that, what IP address range do you want the users to have? So you have it here. What is the DNS information? And the NAT rule, have you exempted them? They shouldn't be subject to any NAT rule. So based on this information, everything here is the way we want it. So now we can confirm that. So we say finish for it to do everything that it's supposed to do. And now you have it there. And as you can see, I'm on the connection profile here. So you see over here, things that you have to check for. This connection profile, is it with the right technology? Yes. If you want it to be enabled on IPsec, you can do the same. And this session is tick. It means that people can have the image downloaded anytime they connect. So what it means, you can browse the IP address and they will be able to download the image that will work with this VPN. So instead of having it on a flash drive to install, they can just get it installed just by browsing the IP address of the firewall and automatically get the installation for them. And that is what this thing is all about. And then it says that bypass interface access list for any inbound session. So if there is any rule that will affect this, you want it to bypass, okay? And then you want user to select the connection profile. Maybe the user can have multiple connection profile. This one, they are going to connect with this. But your company can have clientless profile. You want them to be able to select it. So you choose that one. So that is what all is about. So it seems to be good when we come to that session. So with that session, we are good on that session. But there is something we call split tunnel. Let me bring this one. What is split tunnel? Split tunnel means that somebody is working from home, connecting with his laptop. You want the person to have a tunnel to your corporate network somewhere. Now, any rule that, it means that anything they are doing on their laptop is going to be applied on the tunnel. So it's going to be full network tunnel. What it means is that everything they are doing here, if the firewall doesn't allow it, it will not work. So if the firewall has denied YouTube, they cannot use YouTube when they are connected with the VPN. They cannot shop if they want to go to Amazon. So they can't do personal stuff. So what is the way to solve that issue? Some company enable split tunnel, some company does not, because there is advantage and disadvantage, and I'm going to explain that to you. And please pay attention. So what it means here is, with a split tunnel, it means that you are going to split the tunnel in a way that any traffic that is meant for the corporate network is going to use the tunnel. Any traffic which is not meant for the tunnel, you use your internal home internet. So if you want to go to YouTube, you are not restricted if it's not something restricted on the tunnel. If you want to go to Amazon, you are not restricted, so you are still connected with VPN, but you can access any public services because you are using split tunnel. This is something the administrator will do. The only downside of doing that is, if the person has opened, let's say, corporate services, working on a corporate service file, and then at the same time he has opened, let's say, Amazon.com, or he has gone to a site, and through that site he has been hacked. Now the person can have control over the laptop and then can know the corporate services you are using, and that becomes vulnerable for the company. So most companies don't do split tunnel for remote workers. So if you're a remote worker, you can't go to where the firewall has not allowed you to go. What it also means is you are going to go through the internet through the data center, not at your home. So the disadvantage of this is you will not get good performance with normal services you want to browse, because it will use most of your bandwidth if you are going with a full tunnel. So I'm going to show you how to configure split tunnel, just for you to know if the requirement is meant to have a split tunnel for the users. Then you go with that process. Yes, Godfred, you have a question?
Yes, Prof. I had an experience with someone using a laptop, a corporate laptop. So she was trying, she had accessed the company's network, doing something on the laptop, and then she had opened YouTube. She's able to get all the videos on YouTube, but when, like, without sound. But when she gets off the company's network and opens YouTube from the normal side, there is sound. Is this what the split tunnel is about?
Yes, it means that he is not using split tunnel. So it means, so by default, all traffic will be sent through the tunnel once the user is connected. By default, that is, if you do VPN AnyConnect, by default, every traffic, so like the one you are talking about is YouTube tunnel, everything is going through the tunnel once the user is connected on the VPN. So for that reason, any rule that is applied on the firewall, he will be affected. So sometimes you can restrict users based on application session. So yesterday I spoke to you that you can restrict. We have access rule based on application, access rules based on URL, and even on the application level, you can have people having access to Facebook, but they cannot do video calls so that they don't overutilize the bandwidth. So they can have certain site, if it's not is recognized as a threat to the organization, they can block only that session. So from what you are talking about, it means that he is using the full tunnel. He is not using split tunnel. Split tunnel will enable you to have access to whatever you are supposed to have access. So you are splitting the tunnel. You are allowing private communication to be working, as well as allowing your corporate service also to be working at the same time as you are on the VPN. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but this time she could not get it with a sound, no sound. She can get the YouTube, the videos, everything, but without sound.
Yes, that is what I'm saying. Or you still didn't get it. It's exactly what I said. So on the firewall, he's restricted. So when he's restricted, it means that everything. So what I mean is, and please get this thing right. If we don't do split, all traffic will be sent through the tunnel once the user is connected with the VPN. So if you want to allow users to access the internet once they are connected, then you need to configure split tunnel. If you don't configure it, it means that any rule that if you are inside the company and you are connected with a corporate network, any rule that affects them will affect you even when you are working from home and you are using your own private internet. So whatever ACL that you talk about is what will be affected with. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And does that make sense to everybody too? Okay, so now let's go on. So right now, we are going to create the split tunnel and we are going to allow what we want it to be split tunnel. So on your connection profile, this is the profile they are going to connect it with. Over here, when you click on that connection profile, then you choose edit, which means that the profile that you want them to communicate on, that is the profile that you are going to click, specify the policy on. So as you can see over here, if you look at this very well, you can see that we have the profile name here, the alias here. You have the method of authentication. We are not using a server, so we have AAA. We are also not using any certification or biometric method for authentication. So we are going to have a user local account as you see here. The client VPN pool, the IP address they are going to get is the one we've created, the pool that we created. If you have a different one or multiple one you want them to connect, you can choose it from here. But this is the network we want them to connect on. It should be 192.168.10. This is the one we created. If you don't have it created, you can also create it from here. You can just create it from here as well. But we have it created, so we are not going to create it, and we have chosen it. So this connection profile is going to give this IP address. And then by default, it will create a group policy. By default, you don't do it by it's created. And that is what is here. And I'm going to show you after we are done with the split tunnel in terms of what I spoke about. That to get a VPN, you need a connection profile, you need a group policy, and you need a users who are going to access that. So we want to be sure that all this is created based on what we use the wizard for. So now we have this one, and of course we have the DNS here. If I also want to enable IPsec, I can also enable it here on the connection profile. So you can also check it here. But we want it for SSL. So we are good to go on this side. So we are not going to do anything there. But right now, this group policy, which the user are going to use to connect, is where we are going to create the split rule. So when you come to edit from here, okay, so as you can see over here, you collapse this one and you come to split tunnel. And under the split tunnel is where you choose the policy that you want the device to connect to. So what it means is that you are going to give a policy where this VPN, when they connect to the AnyConnect VPN, there should be access to server A, B, C, D. And then apart from that, they can do anything that they want. So you have so many things you can do here. You can do tunnel or network. This will be a full tunnel, okay? Or you can split it and say this tunnel should be used for only this network, which is what we are going to create, which is network below. Or you can say that every network excluding this. So you can choose any of these options. So now I'm choosing the first one, which is this one, okay? And now once we choose this one, we are now going to create the policy. So it will be inherited by this rule that we are going to assign here. And that rule that we are going to assign here, you come here, you create ACL here. Let's give it corporate service. Corporate service or internal network, any name you want to give. So corporate service, and then you say okay to that, and now you can see here that the corporate server is here. Now what network do you want it to communicate with? And that is what we are going to permit over here. So you say permit all the internal network we have, which is 10.10.0, which is the IP address for server 1. As you can see, it's also within the network of server 2. So all the server farms, you want to give them access. So you enable every server which is 10.10.0. That is the only network you want them to communicate to. So you say this, you say okay, and you say okay. Okay, are you all following what I'm doing? So now you can see over here that a rule has been applied on the split tunnel, and that is what the users are going to use to communicate. So I do okay here, I do okay here, and then I do okay. And now I'm done with the split tunnel. Now I told you that the whole process is creating connection profile, which is this one. Then it will create group policy. You have to remember this for interview purpose. This is how we create VPN. That is the whole concept. So you can see group policy here, and you can see that there is a group policy already here, which is AnyConnect VPN sales. So it created by default. We didn't do this. It was created for us. So we didn't do anything relating to this one. So that is already created. So you are good to go when it comes to that. And now we come to the users. So the users, we created local account. So if you remember, we created this user. So we want to be sure that this user is using the VPN policy and is using the client VPN policy. So in terms of the client VPN policy, we have to be sure that it has everything that is supposed to have. So what we have here, so in terms of AnyConnect, this is AnyConnect VPN. It has inherited everything that we wanted to inherit, as we see over here in terms of what we've done so far. And now we are going to make sure that we configure our identity, the user, and make sure that the user is good to go when it comes to that aspect. And what is the group policy for this? So the group policy for the VPN is this. Okay, we have it here. The tunnel group policy, let's make sure it has it. So we have the group policy, we have the AnyConnect. So we have associated this user account, which is the VPN user account, with the right connection profile and the right group policy. So everything is going to be used based on these two information. So you create a connection profile, you create a group policy for what? For the users. So now that we've done that, it's going to allow them to communicate. So we have this to be okay. And now we can also look at the user account again and be sure that he has the right permission. If you choose no ASDM, it means that it's going to be it's not going to have ASDM, it's not going to Telnet, it's not going to do any SSH. You can also choose this user to be able to do command line prompt but no ASDM. Or you can give full access, you can do everything and even increase the privilege level. And you can even reset a password here. In case the person has forgotten his password, you can reset his password from here. So you just do this to reset his password. And then you say, okay, password do not match. So it means that I didn't type it well. So let me do, let's say, Cisco 1. And let me do the same thing as well. Cisco 1. So you can also reset a password from here. And now you say apply. And now this is all the things we've done under the user account. So we say we are okay with that. And now it will accept that. And now that it has accepted, it means that on this device, which is this PC, we need to install that software. So we have installed the software already. So this is the software. And now you have to connect to the firewall IP, the outside interface. So if you look at our firewall and you do show IP address, you can see that our outside interface, this is the IP we are using for our outside interface. Sometimes you can have a domain name, you can convert it to domain name. So it means that they are going to connect to the firewall with the outside domain name you are giving or the IP address of the firewall. So if you are working from home, you have to look for this AnyConnect. If it's not there, ask them, what is my VPN I'm using? Then once you connect to that, so now let me come here and do connect. And then it's giving you warning that it doesn't have any certification. Are you okay to connect? You say yes. And then what user account did we create? Let me see. Admin VPN. So we are going to use admin. The admin, there was no I. So I have to make sure I use that information. So no I. So I change this one. The connection profile is correct, so I have to be sure that I'm using the correct connection profile. And then I have to change the user account here, use admin without I, VPN. And then I have to put in the password, which is what? Cisco. And then I have to say Cisco 1, I use Cisco 1. Then I say connect. So now it's connecting, and you can see from here, the history of what is going on in terms of the beginning of it. It said, okay, so now it's connected. So you see Cisco AnyConnect is connected. So now we are connected to the VPN. And when you come to okay, so now when we come to this side, it gives you the history of what happened. So you are going to say ready to connect. That is when you open this one. It say contacting this server. It's asking for user. User was entered. This is what the desktop people use to troubleshoot a lot, to know what the issue is. And it's establishing VPN session. It's creating adapter, checking the profile, and everything is ready. And now it says you are connected. So now we are good to go. And that is the reason why you see connected to this. So with this one, if you come to statistics, you are going to see that we are getting an IP address that we created. So now we have an IP address that we created. You also see under tunnel mode, we are using split tunnel. So it means that this, and even if you want to check when you are home, you can check whether your system is a split tunnel by going through this process. So we are using split tunnel. It's not enabled for IP version 6, so all is dropped. The duration so far is this that we've connected to, and now we can also see our IP address over here for the VPN. So we can say IP config, and you can see right here, this was the pool that we created, and the same pool is what we have on the firewall when we went to the connection profile. So that is created for that. So it means that we should be able to ping this server that we have here, which is on the inside of the firewall, and this network is outside of the firewall. So we ping 10.10.0.5. So now if you're able to communicate, it means that you have connectivity. So now we can access the server. Let's see if we can access the second server, which is .6, and it's also reachable. So now what this PC is behaving like a local device. These devices are seeing that PC to be like a local device, inside device, all because of what? VPN, virtual private network. So it's trying to virtualize your private network to be able to communicate to them on a simple term. Is this not simple, guys? That is why I said don't be just a network engineer. If we look at something that I'm doing so far, creating site to site, let me pick your thoughts, Chestero. Firewall filling now and network filling. Which one is more easier?
The firewall.
The firewall. But you are saying that because you are a network engineer. Because if you are not a network engineer, you will not understand what I mean by creating IP scope. Now you have forgotten that you learned that one, you see. So now everything I'm saying or what you'll be saying on firewall is going to be easy for you because you know network. And now when you know firewall, you have the capability to aim well. So we should all try. I'm going to support you to make sure that you aim well and be able to also get job that you enjoy comfortably. And there are a lot of remote jobs on firewall, a lot of them. But also there are on-site firewall jobs. So I don't want you to say that I'm only looking for remote job, guys. Your first job, you don't have a choice. You don't have a good bargaining power. Just do what? Chestero, just do what? Just do what?
It's not just do it. Just get in, and after that, you can have a bargaining power.
Then you get a bargaining power. So what I'm trying to make here is, don't think about the pay. Think about your career, and your career will pull the pay to you. Or you see that jobs will be looking for you. You have your CCNA, you have your CCNP enterprise, you have your CCNP security. This is what I call 2 Ps. You have no idea who you are. Okay? And anybody who has your resume will look at it and watch you differently. And that is how powerful it is. But you have to back it with proper skill set, which is where my concern is. To be that, don't just be certification-based engineer after the training. Be somebody who merits the certificate.